Hi, everybody. This is your information on the State of the American Business 2022 U.S. Chamber of Commerce Conference. So I attended this week and wanted to relay the information that they were talking about to you. And I also want to talk about how this information is relating to our field specifically. So you'll kind of get an idea of what's going on in business in general and how that is relating or potentially could relate to massage therapy. So the keynote speakers at this event were Suzanne Clark, who's the president of the U.S. Chamber of Commerce, also Dr. Albert Bourla, who is the chairman and CEO of Pfizer, and Carol Tomei, who is the CEO of UPS. And I thought these speakers are all really interesting. They all have huge businesses that are contributing to the American economy. And their theme for the year is competition for the future, which I found really interesting. They had 140 global leaders from all over the world participating. They had people in every state participating, and I was very happy to be a part of this webinar. So basically what they said was there are 94% of all chambers of commerce across the country are reporting that it's difficult to hire workers. It is not just affecting our industry, it is affecting everyone across the board. There are 3.4 million job openings in the United States that are being reported by the US chambers so every city might have a chamber of commerce, and these chambers report into the US chamber who is putting on this event. They said we're facing the highest rate of inflation that we have had in 40 years. We have a supply chain shortage that we're facing, worker shortages, and uncertainty because of COVID. And they said the businesses are trying to compete while also having to build and skill their workforce. And in our field, that's happening too. There are businesses who are working with schools and working with employers and partnering to skill and build our workforce. So this information, while it may pertain to a larger business community, it also pertains to us. And that this is how I'm thinking when I'm listening to this information. And I'm thinking with every piece of information, how does that relate to the massage field? There are 11 million vacant jobs in the United States. And when I say vacant, I don't mean job openings. I mean 11 million jobs that they're just not being filled. There are no applications. Nobody is coming to take those jobs. 11 million vacant jobs. They said out of 2 million unemployed people, 1 million people are not looking for work. So during the pandemic, a lot of things have happened. There is an anti-work movement in our country. If you have not seen it on Reddit or you haven't seen it on TikTok, it is there. It's not hard to find. So we have an anti-work movement that is growing. We have parents who haven't been able to find childcare or feel comfortable with getting childcare through the pandemic. We have parents who have decided to stay home and raise their children and homeschool them. We have people who have retired from our industry and are just not coming back. So this definitely does relate to us and the overall economy at large. And I want you to have an understanding of that. So competition is driving they said competition is the driving force powering our businesses today. Creating a better customer experience is vital. Something to think about in your own business is how do you create the best experience for your customers possible? And the way to do that is really to experience that customer journey yourself. What do they see? What do they feel? What do they hear? What can they touch? Like, think about it in terms of senses. Jimmy Gialilla said on our podcast last week that we are not providing hamburgers. We are providing an experience. And I think that is so important to understand. Take your own customer journey and figure out what it is your customers are experiencing every single step of the way. And then with every step, figure out how you can improve that and make that better. And your business will do well overall and do better overall by providing an excellent customer experience as you go. The only way to know how to do that is to do it yourself. You be the customer and find out what your customers are experiencing from start to finish. And then take the steps necessary to improve your customer model. It's not just important for massage therapy, it is important for all businesses in our economy overall right now. But I am going to be bringing this to you as a massage therapist with this bigger information in mind. So Suzanne Clark was the first speaker. She is the CEO and president of the U.S. Chamber of Commerce. Now, the first thing she said that I thought was really cute, it was the free market is not your mama. It's not going to love you just because you exist. Those are some profound words, even though it sounds silly. It's true. It's true. Like the market, meaning the customers, are not going to love you just because you're there. You have to give them value. Your employees aren't going to love you just because you're there either. You have to give them value. So some of the things that they said were to market and meet your customers and your employees' values. Find out what they value and give it to them. Challenge assumptions, which I think is really important. We need to do that in our field anyways. We need to challenge the assumptions that the public makes about us. And if you're a business owner, you need to challenge the assumptions of your employees, because there are employees out there who think, this person's just trying to take advantage of me. If your employee feels that way, then you need to challenge that. You need to help them understand that that's not the case, unless it is the case, which I hope it isn't. But if it's not, and you have people in your business that are assuming that about you, you have to correct it. And if you don't correct it, it can end up damaging your reputation later down the line. And so they said that, and they said that driving change is necessary. And this is something that I keep telling people. We got to drive change in our industry. It is demanding it. It is ripe for change. And this is the best time to do it. So we need to get on the ball and start actually making that happen. Part of that is finding out the values, the assumptions, and what people actually want and need. And we have done that over the last couple of years. So pay attention, because we're just going to keep doing it and giving you more information. And hopefully it is valuable to you. Sorry, I've been talking a lot. The competition for talent is an incentive to achieve your dreams. So think about that. The competition for talent is an incentive to achieve your dreams. I love that. And it is. It really is. The better that your talent is inside your business, the more attainable your dream of whatever that is you want your business to be is more attainable. So consider that. They also said that there's not just a competition out there for talent. There is a competition of thought. There is a competition of business models. And that innovation and evolution are absolutely necessary in order to win in this kind of economy and in this kind of labor market. And I've been saying this for a while now. This is driving the point home. Innovation, evolution is absolutely necessary. You have to do it. Okay. Marketplace competition during the pandemic has presented huge risks for businesses. They need more perseverance. Consumers want lower prices. And they also said innovation equals resiliency. Yes, innovation equals resiliency. And in a field that is not innovating, in a field that is not continually evolving, we are becoming more vulnerable. So if we do not innovate, if we do not evolve, if we do not change with the times, we are vulnerable to contraction. Smaller schools, smaller businesses, things closing down. We have got to figure out where our cutting edge is, and we have to start doing it. We have to start building that for our industry. Okay. So it's very important what I'm saying. And I feel like a lot of this has validated a lot of my work over the last couple of years. Businesses need to get more comfortable with discomfort. The pandemic will continue to be disruptive. She said the economy is an ecosystem. And that's something I think that we all need to understand, is that it is. The economy really is an ecosystem. When you think about a life cycle of something, it's like you're here and you work for this business and you produce a product or you provide a service. There's a consumer over here who's buying that product or service, right? Where are they getting their money? They're working for a business that provides a product or service, and they have this money and then they're passing it on to you. Okay. And the cycle just keeps going. That is the true ecosystem, where the consumers basically hold everything up in the economy. They work to earn, to consume, to buy. And then the cycle repeats again: work, earn, consume, buy. That is the capitalist system that we live in the United States. And that is how things work at this time. So when you think about that, if you don't buy, what happens? The entire system collapses. If you do not consume, what happens? The entire system collapses, and our economy is much more fragile than you think that it is. Because it really, if that happened for 5 days, this whole thing would shut down. It would be an absolute nightmare. And so just consider that and keep that in mind. If people are not buying, everything goes away, right? Understand the ecosystem that we're in is very important. It's just a cycle. It's how it goes. People don't buy, they don't consume, they don't profit, they don't, it just doesn't work. So they also talked about barriers. Parents with no access to childcare. They said barriers are the lack of immigration in our country, barriers to incarcerated workers not being able to be hired or find work. They talked about barriers to addicts not being able to find work in this country. And I really think that the stance by the chamber is really interesting. I'm not really sure how I feel about it personally, but parents with no access to childcare makes a lot of sense to me. If people can't have childcare, or maybe they're worried about their children at childcare, or they're worried about their children at school right now, then yeah, they're not going to work. They're going to take care of their children. I don't know about you, but as a parent, like, my children are the most important thing to me. And I'm not going to go risk their lives for work. I'm sorry. And I think a lot of parents feel that way. They're not going to do it unless they are desperate, and they have to. And sometimes I feel like our economy and our system pushes people to do things because they're desperate and they have to. And that's wrong. I don't think that our country should be running like that, but I'm not the president. So anyway, that's just me. The lack of immigration in our country and the incarcerated workers, barriers to addicts being able to find work. I was on a meeting with the Chamber of Commerce last year, and they were talking about the same thing. I really feel like they want more immigration coming into our country. They want incarcerated workers to have an easier time finding work, and they want addicts to be able to find work, because there are jobs in this country that no American wants to do. And these people can fill those positions, and that's what they want to do with them. I think that it sucks. I think that it makes them second-class citizens. But at the same time, who's going to feed the machine if we don't, right? So there's that. I'm not sure how much I agree with all of this. I'm just giving you the information and a little bit about my opinion, but anyway, just take it for what it's worth. You may disagree with it. It's okay. It is how it is. It's who we are as Americans. The second part of this was Dr. Albert Bourla, who was the CEO and chairman of Pfizer. And I think that his speech was wonderful. He said that they had distributed 2.5 billion vaccines globally, over 100 treatments in preparation. He said that Pfizer has 94 different active programs for progressive new innovative therapies, not just in COVID-19, but cancer treatment, cancer vaccines, hemophilia, the herpes zoster virus, Lyme disease, RSV, a better flu vaccine. So Pfizer is really doing a lot of cutting edge work around vaccination and healthcare right now. And they said that they talked about their partnership with biotech and the development of the COVID vaccine. And I thought you might find this really interesting. He said that their workers self-sacrificed. They worked all night. They worked well into the night. They worked on the weekends. They did all this stuff over 9 to 10 months to get this vaccine developed. And their whole goal was to try to stay ahead of the virus. And their workers, their scientists worked so hard on this that they were unrelenting. They partnered up with biotech. They did a 50-50 split for the profits of the vaccine with this other company. And that they, working together, he said that they wanted to develop what was good for humanity, the most effective vaccine that they could offer in the shortest amount of time. And their scientists at Pfizer teamed up with the scientists at biotech, and I guess they worked together very well. They were all acting as if they were a part of the same company and the same team to develop this. And that collaboration is what really brought the vaccine to fruition for the American people and people around the world. So one of the things that he offered as far as business advice, he said that if you can find ways to collaborate with other businesses, this is key. The ability to cooperate and maintain will make all of the difference. And he said one of the things that they were doing when they were developing the vaccine was to talk to each other and say, are we getting better or not? So simple. Are we getting better or not? If we're getting better, then great. Let's keep improving. If we're not getting better, then let's stop and reevaluate. And that's what they did to make this happen. And I think that every business, whether you're a solo practitioner or you have employees, that's a great line of thinking. Are we getting better or not? If not, reevaluate. If yes, keep improving. So there's your business advice from Pfizer CEO. He also said that science is really diverse and it's changing very rapidly, and that there has to be a new wave of innovation to support the economic ecosystem in the country. And I'm glad that he said that. And I wanted to speak to that a little bit because I think as the American public, the population overall, even the global population in general, we have seen science change from day to day. It makes it very difficult to understand for the general populace. People are like, why are the rules different today than they were yesterday? The CDC said, the CDC said. I don't know if you've seen all the jokes going around about what the CDC said, but there's so many of them. And all of this is very frustrating for the public because they do not understand that science is a rapidly evolving thing. And I know that a lot of us have tried to tell people that. It's just really hard to wrap your brains around. It just is. We're in a healthcare field, so we kind of understand, right? But we probably don't understand as much as these scientists do, and these virologists and these immunologists that are dealing with it every single day, where things are probably changing multiple times a day. So I really feel like if they would have said at the beginning of the pandemic, okay, the whole thing gets shut down, everybody has it this way. People might not have liked it, but they would have done it. And the other thing that they could have done is said, everybody do what they want. People are going to get sick. Sorry, right? And either one of those positions would have been easier for the American public to deal with than the one we have now. And the one we have now, which is the patchwork quilt that we see, not just in our industry, but in our entire country, where there's differing rules for differing people, for differing states, cities, counties, all this stuff. It is very difficult for people to understand, wrap their heads around, and conform to because there is no standard. And we see that a lot of times in our industry too. So what I want to say to that is that even if things are changing and shifting rapidly, you need to have a baseline to hold on to. And this baseline is something that I'm not sure we have established in massage therapy. So establishing that baseline is going to be very important moving forward. We have to have a place where we know is solid that we can count on. And if we don't have a baseline, things are going to be constant chaos. So think about that moving forward in your business, in your life in general, and maybe even in what you do as far as politics or the country or anything that you have to deal with in your life. Having a constant baseline that you can kind of count on seems important, right? I also wanted to talk about the licensing of the vaccine. I found that really interesting. He said when the vaccine first came out, one of the things that me and my husband were talking about, I was like, why aren't they open sourcing this? Why aren't they letting everyone make this globally so that we could get everybody vaccinated? And the reason why, he said, was because there were highly specialized ingredients in the vaccine that were only able to be obtained and manufactured in very few parts of the world. So they were not able to manufacture the vaccine globally. So I found that really interesting. However, they do have the COVID pill now, and they are open sourcing the pill, and it will be available globally around the world. Scientists will be able to tap into the manufacturing instructions. No royalties, no charges. Anyone will be able to make it and manufacture it and develop it and distribute it throughout the world. He said that the first year it should cover 53% of the global population, and over 100 manufacturers have already applied to be able to create the new COVID pill. So I found that really interesting. I hope that it kind of increases your understanding a little bit of what a company like that has to go through. And the last speaker was Carol Tomei. She's the CEO of UPS. Carol employs 540,000 people. They serve 220 countries. They have delivered 1 billion COVID vaccines since the start of the pandemic. She said that over the last couple of years, their competitors have changed, their customers have changed. And I think that's something that we're probably seeing in our field too. Our competitors have definitely changed. When you look at the competition in our market right now, more competitors who are independent massage therapists have come up since the pandemic. There have been a lot more people going into independent practice. And one of the things that I've been talking about is that independent therapists are really now the #1 competitors of the franchises. And so that franchise has to compete with all of those independents that are coming up around their locations who are taking customers as well. I find that interesting. And so, yes, our competition has changed. The other thing that has happened is our customers have changed. Customers who may have been receiving massage therapy prior to the pandemic may not be coming back. Customers who need massage therapy because of the stress that they've been under for the last 2 years may be new and coming in to our businesses now. And the older people who may have immune issues and stuff like that, those people may not be coming as much into your business. Maybe they've even stopped getting massage therapy. Now you need to market to a younger generation. You need to start looking at Gen Z. Gen Z is coming of age. I know my Gen Z daughter just turned 18. So they need to be marketed to. Your millennial population needs to be marketed to. And to be honest, over the next year or two, your people who are like 35 to like 60, who's really been our major population of people seeking out massage therapy, that may change. And you may start seeing a younger generation. And I'm talking about maybe from the ages of like 25 to 45 being your main customer base. I would expect that to happen over the next couple of years. So keep that in mind when you're thinking about marketing this year. You may want to start thinking about ways how you can appeal to a younger population. The other thing that I found really interesting that they were talking about was their investments. They said that UPS had invested in their customer experience, they invested in their employee experience, and they invested in innovations in technology and logistics. So obviously with delivering the COVID vaccines, they needed sensors. They had to start manufacturing dry ice on site so that they could use it for their deliveries. They started using drones to deliver to parts of the world that were hard to get to. Like they delivered 2 million COVID vaccines to Rwanda by drone. And they said that the thing with drones is you can't fly them in the wind, you can't fly them in the rain. So UPS is actually going to start an entire fleet of planes that are battery powered. They're going to do that to cut down on their carbon emissions. And they said by 2024, they will have their first fleet of battery powered aircraft to deliver around the world. So I thought that was really cool. Also, they said that the labor force is really the secret sauce of the economy. And that's true. Without the labor force, we don't have an economy. So if our labor force is shrinking in massage therapy, what do we have? Well, I mean, we have independent practitioners and they definitely are part of the labor force, even though they don't work for somebody else. So there's that, but we have to continue to figure out ways to innovate and to grow our profession in a way that people actually want to come and be a massage therapist and that keeps them in the profession for longer periods of time. And without that, I don't really see how we can actually overcome a lot of the challenges that we're dealing with in our industry. So innovation and growth and, leading through crisis, super, super important right now. And I cannot stress that enough. If you're listening to me, that if you run a business or you're an independent practitioner, you have got to figure out how will you manage through the next crisis? And you need to have a game plan of what your leadership's going to look like. I don't think that we had a solid game plan when COVID hit us, and it caused a lot of the problems that we're experiencing right now in our industry. There were issues with the associations. They were too slow. There were issues with insurance. We didn't know if it was covered. There were all kinds of things were happening. Businesses did not have plans of shutting down and then how they were going to come back during a pandemic. There were no hiring plans on how we're going to hire in a labor force that, is decimated. So all these things going forward are going to be so important to anybody working in this industry. And we need to really start coming up with strategies to retain the massage therapists that we have left and for growing our industry for more. So very important. Also, let's see. Oh, and the last thing that I wanted to mention is that UPS, they're all union. The majority of their workers are unionized. They are unionized under the Teamsters. They are all under collective bargaining agreements. And Carol brought that up during her speech. And I thought it was really interesting. She said she loves working with them and that they have more opportunities at work. They have more benefits at work than other companies in their industry. And she also said, do you know that they pay $0 for healthcare? Zero. And that is the power of American unionism that I think that we don't consider, right? Whether it's good for our industry or it isn't, I've already passed that point, a year and a half ago. I'm not going to continue to pursue that anymore, but I really just wanted to bring that up because she mentioned it in her speech and I found it interesting, and hopefully you do too. They also talked about the supply chain and improvements that they're making in Asia to help with that. They didn't have enough ships to actually get all of the supplies out that needed to be delivered during the pandemic, which has caused delays and supply chain disruption globally. So they are working on innovative ways to do that. She said that one of the things that you should do is to change your perspective on inventory management and also increase your working capital so that you can keep your inventory at home. So when you do buy supplies, try to buy them from United States manufacturers, try to buy them in the United States. And one of the things that UPS is doing that I thought was cool is they're creating a system to create end-to-end visibility. So basically, they will be able to show their customers where the product is in the supply chain, and when it will be delivered to them so that they can create the product that they are looking to deliver. And they are going to be working with other companies to be able to do that and create this end-to-end visibility, which I thought was fascinating. And there are some suppliers in our industry that I think do that already. And, a lot of it is like organic products that are created here in the United States, like Farmhouse Fresh, I think is one of those where you kind of know where things are when you're ordering from them. And they do seasonal stuff and they do fresh stuff, but you kind of have an idea of where the product is in its manufacturing process, which is really cool. So think about looking to suppliers that will actually provide some kind of visibility for you so you know when things are coming in, and have backups in case there are shortages for the things that you need for your business. And she also said CEOs need to be futurists. They need to be able to see trends. And yes, they do. I think that if you cannot see what's trending towards the future, then you're in a very significant disadvantage right now. So you have to be able to keep looking forward down the line as far as you can to see what is coming up. You need to know what the trends are in our industry. You need to know what the trends are in the spa world. And there's lots of other things that relate to us, like our manufacturers and the people who make massage tables and, the people who are making all of the supplies and the oil manufacturers and all these things that we work with in our industry. So keep all of that stuff in mind, especially if you're running a massage business. It's really important to know and to understand. And the last thing that I found was really interesting. They had talked about ESG investing. So what that is investing environmental, social, and global investing, governmental investing, sorry. So environmental, social, and global investing, and that more capital is expected to be invested into these areas from major corporations. And maybe that's something that you can think about on a smaller scale or in a small business model, is to environmentally friendly products, social investments that actually improve your community, and also governmental investments that help create legislation that is beneficial to you and beneficial to your business. So 3 things to think about. She said it's not going away, and we are going to see more corporations investing into these areas in the future to help combat things like global warming, climate change, trying to keep things viable for business in the United States. They will be investing into the government. We know that they've been doing that for a long time. So these are just areas to think about, and also social investments. Obviously creating quality of life for the communities in which they live. There's places where there's a company, like let's say Google, for example. There are a lot of people that can't afford to live near Google. So they were living in vans and they were living in campers, and they were living in Silicon Valley in their cars so that they could work for these companies. And when I talk about social investments that corporations like this are doing, some of the things that they're looking at are how do we invest into housing around here that is affordable to our employees. So that's just one kind of example in social investments. And something that I think that the world needs to take seriously. So another food for thought there. And then they had a couple of senators who were on here, Susan Collins from Maine and Jean Shinhee from New Hampshire. And I found their part of the speech interesting. They were talking about having divergent views, but being able to find common ground. And they were asking them, how can you work together when you do not agree? Well, some of the things that they were talking about were using small working groups and groups being formed to actually find solutions. Another thing that I've been talking about for a long time. One of the things I found really interesting is they were talking about the infrastructure bill for the United States. And I was dumbfounded by how many people worked on that bill. 22 people were in the original working group, 22 people in Congress to develop a bill to change the infrastructure of the United States. And by the time that it was over, only 10 people were actually there working on that bill. 10 people were the people that actually created that piece of legislation that could change the entire trajectory of infrastructure in the United States. And I found it really interesting while I was researching our organizations, and it's maybe interesting for you to note. The Alliance for Massage Therapy Education only has about 175 members. CompTA, they only have about 160 something members. These organizations are not that big, and the impact that they have on our industry is huge. So what I want to leave you with is this: a small group of committed people really can change huge swaths of what's going on in our world. And we can do that in massage therapy. We don't need that many people. What we need are committed people. It takes a long time to make a big change like that and to make an impact like that. And so the amount of people is not really as important as the commitment that the people that are actually doing it have. So anyway, with that, I'm going to leave you. So that was the 2022 State of American Business. And if you found this interesting and you enjoyed it, let me know. I am doing more things like this over, the next year. And I would love to be able to share these things with you and give you an idea of kind of like, what am I thinking about when I'm hearing this information? I have a business background, I have a massage therapy background, and I'm just trying to like mesh these things into one, because it's really important that we not just look at our tiny picture in massage therapy and think that that's the world. It's not. And all of these other outside factors are influencing what's going on with us. So anyway, I hope you enjoyed it. Have a good night, and I will talk to you again later.